Hello, listeners and viewers, to the next episode of Welcome to Perth Catch Ups. Today I have with me Anna Last, the Executive Director of Events at Tourism WA. Anna, how are you?
Hello, I'm great, thank you.
Now, Anna, we do actually know each other before we've just started this interview, a fair few years ago, so I'm sure we'll get into that. But that accent, that's not an Aussie accent.
It's not. It is a British accent, although unfortunately I think it's starting to go a little bit, as people are telling me.
So all your family back home say...
All my family are back home. My husband, your friend,
Yes.
is from Perth, and that's what brought me here to this beautiful state.
You lucky lady. So grew up in England. Obviously, we'll get into some Tourism WA highlights shortly, but whereabouts in England did you grow up?
Born in Oxford, most well known probably for shooting Harry Potter.
Oh, very nice.
And then went to university in Bristol, and then I lived and worked in London before I came over to Australia.
Cool. And so what did you study at uni?
Studied English literature, which I think is interesting for a lot of Australian people because over here you seem to study a lot more vocational degrees, whereas in the UK it's quite common to study a subject matter. So I studied English literature.
Yep.
In the knowledge that I loved words and writing, but I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to apply that to.
Yeah, okay, cool. That makes sense. So maybe a little bit like the old commerce degree we do out in Curtin when you're not sure, but you just know you want to get into business. You just knew you wanted to be good with your language in something. That's a very important skill.
Correct.
So, okay, so you finished uni, and then what did you then go into in London?
So I did a bit of everything. I finished university, and one of the first things I did was I was a runner for TV production companies, which is basically the young unpaid intern who runs around and does anything that the producers wants, gets coffees, does a whole load of random stuff, but I absolutely loved it. In fact, I know it's not very common anymore, but I kind of finished and graduated uni at the time of unpaid internships. So I did a lot of those, which at the time was grueling, but in hindsight gave me such great experience because I did so many different things. So I was doing TV production, I was doing a bit of journalism and writing, and then it was really at the time when paper and print journalism was starting to kind of conclude and move to digital. And I didn't really like that at the time, so I decided to go into communications and ended up working at a communications agency called Mission, which when I started working there in London, there was probably only about a dozen people. And then when I left 3 years later, there were hundreds of people across London, New York and LA. So I was there for this really great period of growth, and as a result, I got to do loads of really cool things there. Cool.
What was your favourite project that you worked on?
I was very fortunate. They had incredible clients, and working in an agency, as you would know, can be very challenging. It teaches you a lot. So I was doing stuff like working on the Victoria's Secret fashion show. Taylor Swift performed back before she was as big as she is now.
Love it.
And no one kind of really cared that she was there, but looking back, I wish I'd at least touched her in a non-weird way. So the Victoria's Secret fashion show, I was working on a lot of clients under the LVMH group, the Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy group. And then I was also working on some travel clients, which is what got me really interested in tourism. So Intercontinental Hotels and Resorts, I wrote their global PR toolkit.
Awesome.
And just loads of different brands.
Nice bit of good broad spectrum, even just,
Huge,
those specific ones there.
Yeah, massive spectrum.
And then, so that role, that's where you finished up, and then you end up moving to Perth, wasn't it?
Ended up moving to
Perth. So that wasn't a business decision at that stage, was it?
It was not.
So talk us through that.
It was a love decision.
Very nice.
And it worked out well, thank gosh.
Yep.
So when I
For those listening and not watching the YouTube, that was a ring that she just popped up. So she is well and truly married. And you met your now husband at a festival.
I did, yeah. So 2012, I met my now husband at Benicassim Festival in Spain. And I'm not ashamed to say this because I absolutely love Perth and Western Australia now. But when I first met him and he told me he was from Perth, no idea where it was. And the first thing I said to all my girlfriends was, why can't he be from Melbourne? I loved Melbourne. I'd been to Melbourne. I had a friend who lived in Melbourne. I truly had never heard of Perth, but it's just so funny now looking 12 years ahead.
Yeah.
And I live here and I love it and I sell it for a living.
Well, and you did actually at one point, get your wish. You did try the Melbourne thing. So, okay, fast forward. So you've moved to Perth.
Yeah.
And you've gone, all right, now I've got to probably get a job.
Yeah, so moved over to Perth and we were always doing it as a bit of a short-term thing. So I did a few random things and I was still working on a couple of projects in London and I was going back and forth. We were only here for about 9 months and then we moved over to Melbourne. But in that 9 months, I did fall in love with Perth, fell in love with Western Australia. And we always knew we were going to come back and settle here because, I mean, look at it.
Yeah, it's winter and it feels like English summer.
Glorious. It's better than English summer right now.
Lucky it wasn't yesterday, actually, because the rooftop was a lot wetter than this. So it does work well. So you went to Melbourne, and did you go to Melbourne before you had the job and before your partner had the job, or was that after you both got a job?
So Courtney managed to get a job over there already, so we moved with that, and I was freelancing when I first got there, which I was really enjoying. And then I got a role which I absolutely loved at the National Gallery of Victoria. So I was head of corporate partnerships there, which basically meant all of the partners that we worked with, commercial partners and tourism partners. We did a lot of work with Visit Victoria to get funding to put on the major events there and the major exhibitions there.
Yeah, awesome. And so you were there for how long?
3 years.
Awesome. And what was your most entertaining moment from that role or event? Or
again, I was so lucky. I got to do so many cool things there. One of our biggest partners was Vogue Australia, and Anna Wintour came over. So we got to put on a special kind of beautiful private exhibition for her and Vogue, which was amazing. Meeting her was incredible because I love journalism, of course. Got to work with some incredible artists. Cause, the artist who came over and did kind of the first graffiti exhibition in Australia, which was a massive success. I was very, very fortunate. I got to work with lots of amazing people there.
And then the decision was, all right, it's time to head to Perth. And I presume you were looking on for jobs and going, oh, what's my skill set? What can I put my hand to?
Well, COVID hit, which...
Oh, yeah. But hang on, it hit while you were in Melbourne, didn't it?
Yeah, we've forgotten a key little pandemic that happened. So
not the greatest city all of a sudden to be in.
No, not the greatest
no
city.
Sport. Yeah, no shows
no
going on, and lockdown as much as anyone was.
Yeah, so COVID hit and it was absolutely savage in Melbourne. So we were locked down for nearly a year and allowed to leave the house for 1 hour at a time.
Nice.
We were living in a dingy basement flat in Melbourne. It was absolutely dire.
Just quietly, when we all have kids and we tell them about COVID, they'll be like, wow, did that really happen? It's already a bit like, oh, what, really? You're only allowed to exercise for 1 hour? And you're only allowed, you're only allowed like within your radius.
Within a 5 kilometre radius.
You'd get a fine, wouldn't you?
You'd get a fine. You were only allowed one person from the household in the supermarket at a time. So we would both go into the supermarket and pretend not to know each other.
I'm laughing, but like it sounds
it's
like
insane.
a bit of a joke now.
It's insane. So it was it was actually really, really difficult. And we do laugh, but I've got to say I've heard of some awful long-term effects of COVID specifically in Melbourne.
But like London, really, like going back and chatting with people that was full on. So
horrific.
But yeah, we will chat with our grandkids and they'll just think we're making this up.
I know. It is bizarre. I feel like we all have PTSD from it now. We've blocked it out of our heads. But anyway, yeah, so we ended up coming back to Perth and doing the hotel quarantine and working remotely from Perth for our roles in Melbourne because everything was open here.
I heard that there was a friend of yours that smuggled in some wine in a basket for you.
A friend of yours, very closely connected with you, Crappy. Crappy's wife did smuggle wine into the hotel, which was very well received. So yeah, we came back and we were working remotely, and we absolutely loved it. being back here in Perth with all of our friends and family, and it is such a great place to live. So we sort of made the decision that we wanted to come back permanently, and I had loved the major events side of my job, and I'd loved working with Visit Victoria on the tourism side. So I actually just ended up following the job alerts for the government to work with Tourism Western Australia.
Yeah.
And was just incredibly fortunate that the role at the time that came up was Director of Event Development at Tourism Western Australia. And I applied, and we were back in Melbourne at this point, and Melbourne had opened up, so we were back enjoying it, but knew that we wanted to come back to Perth. And I applied for the role and got it.
Congratulations. And pretty quickly you got a promotion.
I did.
How quickly was that?
I'd say it was after 9 months. It was just a fortunate circumstance that my boss was moving on and the role became available, and I was acting in it, and then formally applied for it. And as anyone who works in the government will know, they are rigorous recruitment processes. And I've been in this role for 2 years now.
Awesome. And so in those 2 years, what's been some really fun projects that you've worked on?
So many. In terms of, if I explain kind of briefly what my role is, what the purpose of our job is.
Good idea.
So Tourism Western Australia is obviously the tourism agency for the state. So the role of our agency is to market the state as an incredible place to live, work and play. And my role specifically is leading the event. So we give people a time-specific reason to visit Perth or Western Australia, or a hook to book, as we call it.
I like that. Hook to book.
A hook to book.
That's hook to me.
Yes. So there's a very competitive, cluttered market out there. So we try and sort of cut through that by supporting and funding events to come over to Perth that will drive tourism. So that means essentially any event that's going to make someone from interstate or internationally book to come to Perth specifically to go to that event and then make a holiday out of it. So really a couple of recent amazing events I've loved. The Coldplay exclusive concerts that we did last November.
A lot of interstate and eastern states and New Zealand, and
so nearly 22,000 people travelled just for those concerts alone.
Awesome. How many internationals travel for that one?
So that 22,000 interstate and international, I'd have to get the breakdown.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
That 22,000. That's
should know off the top of my head.
That is good numbers, and that's a lot of people booking hotel rooms. A lot of people going to restaurants, bars. Filling up the city. So that one, and I know there's a fair few other ones that you got to play around with as well.
I loved in February this year we had WWE here doing a premium live event at Optus Stadium. That was amazing from start to finish. I just loved it, working with WWE from the development and acquisition of the event right to putting it on, and again an amazing result. Around 16,000 people travelled for that event.
Awesome.
And it was just
incredible.
Good
because that's quite a unique one. That, like, Coldplay for me, I think, cool. Obviously, such a huge draw card. WWE is a little bit more of a riskier one, but you really pushed that one, didn't you?
I really pushed that one. And I probably don't look like it, but I am an unlikely WWE fan.
Well, you do know that I'm a big fan of Triple H.
You are.
And when I found out that you were having a deal with him, I got quite excited. I remembered 12-year-old James all of a sudden, who used to pretend to be Triple H.
Doing the water spout.
Exactly. So how was he to deal with?
He was amazing, a true professional. I have to say, I love working with American people. They all just are such hard workers and incredibly professional, and he in particular, he's such a well-known international celebrity, but he also has a very important executive role in the business, and so he kind of has to straddle both things, and he just did it effortlessly, and he was a pleasure to work with, and the whole event and production was unbelievable, and hopefully some people went and experienced it. We had 56,000 people at the stadium, but it was just amazing. The amount of money and investment that they put into every single piece of that production, and then the actual performers or athletes were absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's not fake, it is real. Now, I enjoyed the little promo number that was done in the Western Australian newsroom. That was quite good.
With the editor?
Yeah, very, very impressive. So, and was that your idea that got The Rock to say Perth like 100 times in one one video?
Let's just say I pushed for something. Everyone wanted The Rock to come to Perth, and that would have obviously been incredible. But, it's The Rock.
The Rock. Rock's a movie star now as well.
The Rock's a movie star. He is actually on the board of the company that own WWE now, which is great. But he was going to be performing, I think, in WrestleMania, which was the next event. So he just couldn't come.
Yep.
And he ended up doing a video for us, which was great. And he said Perth many times, which the value of that in itself is pretty good.
Because Anna that was a fan as a 12-year-old, would have been like, oh, what's Perth? I better look Perth up. So then when you would have met your partner, at this festival in Spain, you would have known exactly where it was.
Exactly.
So you're doing your job for future Annas in the future to want to come to Perth rather than go to Melbourne.
Exactly. And another one, when we had the UFC here in February last year, and we also have the UFC coming back this August with tickets about to go on sale.
You do. Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis.
Which is an incredible main fight.
Great main fight.
But Joe Rogan's obviously a huge fan of UFC, and he watched it last year. And on his podcast, he was saying, my God, Perth is it looks incredible. We should all move to Perth. So the value of that is just massive. So the visitation,
hard to quantify,
really hard.
That, isn't it? But how much reach, how many views, how many people are seeing that vision. Because I know there was some really good drone footage of Perth in between the fights that was happening. So is that something you negotiate as part of the UFC deal?
Yes. So in all of our contracts, we have broadcast rights. So we get their talent to come over to Perth, and then we'll film them doing certain things, and then we chop it up and we put that into the broadcast. So we had Volkanovski last year on a fishing boat catching crayfish at Rottnest and then cooking them. And so we'll always do as much as we can to engage with the athletes or the celebrities before the event, and then film it, put it in the broadcast. And the media impact is one of the key things that we look for. So how many people are traveling for the event, but then also how many people are seeing the destination as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. How was Volk to work with?
Wonderful, real gentleman.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He seems like an entertaining,
he was
up
hilarious.
for anything type of character.
He was great.
Okay, cool. And then what's some other ones that you've been working on?
Well, we have a really robust calendar, and it's on our website. We've got lots of events coming up. We've got a big winter, so we've got especially one weekend in August on the 17th, we've got a Wallabies Springboks test at the stadium, and the next day we've got UFC 305.
It's a big weekend for Perth.
Big weekend, and also a big weekend for South Africans, because we've got the Springboks and then we've got the South African fighter on the Sunday. I'm really looking forward to, in November, we have a brand new state-owned food and wine event in Margaret River called Paired. So we've been working on that for a really long time, and it's kind of a celebration of food and wine and music happening in the Margaret River region in November.
Awesome. And so
incredible.
That's a 3-day festival?
3 to 4 days, depending on the program that you go for. And it will be celebrating, all of kind of local West Australian produce, and then bringing over some kind of talent as well to promote the region as well.
Awesome. Love it. There'll be a lot of people that go down south for that.
Oh, yeah.
Might have to book that time off work. I might have to come down for that one. And what have been some challenging ones?
Yeah, well, I think you would know as much as me that working in events,
you're susceptible
to a lot of challenges. And there are lots of things that are unknown. I think, things like the weather, of course, we can't help. We've had lots of issues with weather. But I think in recent times, one of the biggest challenges for us is the competition from interstate and overseas. So post-COVID, a lot of kind of countries have realised that events is a great way to reinvigorate tourism. So they have huge budgets, like the Middle East. I mean, it's very difficult to compete with their budgets.
Oil money is hard to compete. Yes. Then again, we've got iron ore money.
We do,
but the government doesn't splash it as
Correct.
much as...
I mean, we have a really healthy budget and we're very well supported, which is awesome because we drive a strong return on investment. But yeah, competition from other states, and you've got places like in Las Vegas, the new Sphere, And so now people are planning their holidays around going to, not even a specific event, but because they want to go and experience a stadium or somewhere like the Sphere, which is quite difficult to compete with. And then the other challenge I would say is just the consumer trends at the moment. People are booking things much later.
Makes it really hard to plan, doesn't it? And
Yes.
how much does that add to the stress when you're like, we think it's going to sell out, but it's actually only at 30% capacity at the moment, and we're only 4 weeks away.
Yeah,
and you've got to book all the stuff, you've got to lock everything in, so you've got to make the call really outside of like weather. You've really, a month out, you have to really be locking everything in. So
it's very stressful. And a lot of people are even, especially in Perth, booking in like the last 1 to 2 weeks as well. So that's been a challenge.
Come on, Perth people, please just buy your tickets early, just so event organisers don't have to lose 10 years off their life.
Exactly. But no, in all, everything's going really well. We've got kind of the biggest calendar of events that we've ever had. We launched our strategy last year called our Vision for Dream Events, which is around our ambition to be the fastest growing events destination in the Southeast Asia region.
Love it.
Because we very much, of course, first and foremost, we're part of Australia, but we really do take advantage of our geographical location being so close to Asia as well.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. And so, you're also bidding up against other states when, Gather Round, for example. I know you guys were going up against Adelaide for that one.
Yeah.
And then, but you did secure the NBL one.
We did. So Hoops Fest is happening in September, which is really exciting. So the first round of the NBL. And that's really a massive basketball festival. So as well as all of the matches, we've also got an under-18s component. We've got Sneaker Land as well.
Yep, love it.
So it's all about celebrating the culture of basketball. So there's a lot coming up.
I like that one. I think that'll go really well. And just speaking, thinking about weather, just backtracking a little bit. So WA Day, you guys sort of? I know you guys don't run that. I know that's run by a different organisation. Celebrate WA is the organisation. Do you guys help support that in any way?
So the government does, not through Tourism WA, but the government definitely supports WA Day. But yeah, I mean the poor.
That was tough. That the amount of rain that I know everyone says it's winter, you should expect rain. That was a large amount of rain in a short period of time. However, I've got an idea, okay? Maybe you can go back to the team about this. So it is a bit swampy, that land. So it is susceptible. If WA Day is not going to change the date, I don't know about the laws or whatnot, which I presume is quite hard. So let's pretend that date can't be changed. If it could, then great, let's change it to springtime so it's a little bit more reliable. If not, maybe it's booking out the RAC Arena for that long weekend, and then you've got a bunch of different entertainment that rolls through there. So you've got a morning session, an afternoon, an evening session. So 3 sessions per day, and then you do that over 3 or 4 days. And then you're allowed to buy a ticket to only one of them. So you sort of got to pick, and it can be family friendly stuff, and then it could be artists that's full shows, and then you do you do full pop-ups and marquees and whatnot around RAC. So it turns into more of a urban CBD festival, but then you're a lot more protected from the weather. So just an idea, just throwing it out there.
This is why you work in events, James.
It's not for me to take on, but you can maybe throw it to the team, and then that way you're not going to have to stress about the weather. And if it is good weather, then great. You can get rid of those marquees and save that bit of cost, and then you can get thousands and thousands of people. And then all the bars and restaurants are going to be happy around there as well. So
it's a great idea.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll leave that with you. I'll let you speak to the team about that one. So then, because I reckon 3 strikes you're out type of thing. So again, I know it's not you. It's Celebrate WA, and it's very unlucky. But if there was weather again and they had to cancel it, I think people would end up just giving up on planning that they're going to go there.
Yep. I think they're definitely looking into solutions.
Very good, very good. And so, what's the from a Tourism WA point of view, what's your 5, 10, 20 years? Where do you see sort of Perth going, and what sort of city do you think it's going to become?
That's a very good question. So it's a really exciting time in Australia at the moment for events. We've obviously got the Olympics in Queensland in 2032. And whilst that's not here in Western Australia, the lead up creates many opportunities for us. There's also the Rugby World Cup in 2027, which we're kind of working through at the moment. Then there's the Women's Rugby World Cup in 2029. There is the Women's Asia Cup Soccer in 2026, which Western Australia has just been announced as one of the 3 host states. There's a lot of really big national events happening over the next few years, which is really exciting to help kind of grow our reputation as a major events destination. And then Perth specifically for us, it's all about growth at the moment. So doing as much as we possibly can, populating a calendar of year-round events so that it doesn't matter when you come to Perth, there's always something going on, creating that vibrancy, creating a really diverse calendar as well, and then also working on our annual events that give people that annual reason to come over. For example, the Rugby Sevens, which we held for the first time this January.
You did, and that looked like it was really successful.
It was amazing. It was a sellout. HBF Park was incredible. There's a huge festival component to it, so it doesn't matter if you are a rugby union fan. It's about coming and having a great time with your friends over that long weekend in January. We've got it again in 2025.
Are we going head to head and competing again?
we might be.
I had some beach festivals on the same day. Luckily, we sold out as well, so we both sold out. So there's enough to go around.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can do both. I mean, we're on for 3 days of the weekend. So,
and what date are you locking? What date have you locked in?
What is that expression? All ships rise with the tide.
Let's just hope the tide is coming in rather than going out. What date? We haven't actually spoken about this offline.
The long weekend in January.
Oh, so it is that same one? All right, we're going head to head again. I better get my tickets up early for that one, just to and lock in my videographers at the same time.
I think we'll all be fine.
I think so as well. No, that did look awesome because it looks like people dress up. They dress up like there's a lot of bars and activations there rather than it just being like very much a sporting crowd.
Yes, and that's probably another thing I'll touch on as well is that everything that comes around an event is very important, and that's becoming even increasingly important. So when we're investing, a significant amount of money to bring an event over here, what's happening around that? How are we activating? How's industry being engaged? How are the local West Australians being engaged? Because as much as, of course, it's about driving tourism, it's also about creating vibrancy and making Perth a desirable place to live. Mm-hmm. So more and more, it's about making sure that every event has that component to it of, a festival or something around it that makes it even more exciting and enjoyable to be a part of.
I love it. And we're going to wrap up with one final question, a little bit of a funnier one, or maybe not funnier one, but some celebrities that you've come across. Who's surprised you and you've ended up loving? Like I know, like the World Surfing League's been here, so you've got to see the great man Slater. You get to rub shoulders with some very big names.
Oh wow, okay. Recently, I would say I thought Logan Paul was hilarious. He was over here for the WWE. Didn't he bag out Perth? Or was that part of his character? It was all part of his character.
Oh.
So before
Did you sign off on that?
So all of the athletes were being so incredible about Perth, and before he went out on stage, one of the people said to him, this was for the press conference the day before, which was being broadcast globally, and there was thousands of people there, and one of the producers said to him, remember, say great things about Perth. And then he went out and said that it was an awful place covered with rats and oh my God, it's so bad. But it was hilarious because it's his personality and it's who he is. So he was really interesting, and all of the WWE guys were great to work with. Mm-hmm. Being able to meet people like Kelly Slater is obviously incredible, and athletes in general. We've had amazing athletes over here across football, tennis. The likes of Djokovic was here in January, Federer. Incredible athletes, so I love meeting them just because they're such impressive human beings. But yeah, I think that, to be honest with you, it's more about the event experience that I get excited about. Like, it's great to meet all these amazing people. Seeing it come together and seeing people enjoy and experience an event here and fall in love with Western Australia is really kind of why we do it. But yeah, I just love seeing it all come together, and, giving people experiences is what life's all about, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree anymore, Anna. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next 5-10 years looks like from you professionally, and what other awesome events you're going to bring WA. So you've done a fantastic job in the 2 years that you've been in your role. Let's just make sure you don't try to compete with me on too many dates. Okay, let's just work together here.
And might I say well done to you guys as well, because welcome to Perth, and everything that you do is a really important part of the puzzle to make this a great place for locals and visitors as well. So thanks to you too.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.